With every new beautiful video game character design, there's an angry social media mob angry at the designers that created that video game character. And this is a thing that's been repeatedly occurring, especially people that are angry at the changes that we're seeing in the video game landscape, where we're getting a lot of more aesthetically beautiful designs. And this is bringing back the question, does pretty hurt gaming? And the conclusion from social media is yes, especially if it's from Korea and Japan. People are truly getting angry at Korea and Japan. I think it comes down to their image and models that they use for video games that are coming out that are in stark contrast to Western video game developers that are usually sticking to a more masculinized look for a lot of the female characters. And this is the complete opposite thing that we're seeing from East Asian game developers, specifically Korea, and of course Japan has a long storied history in creating a lot of attractive female characters for their video games. But I think this is even more in stark contrast of what we're seeing in the West right now, where we're getting a lot more characters drawn away from their feminine traits and aspects. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of attention given to Japanese and Korean games nowadays, because they're doing the things that we classically saw in Western games development, and it's drawing a large amount of attention to their games right now. You can see it with some of these games that are still in early release development cycle. You have Monster Hunter Wilds and another Korean game with a specific female character that is just basically in the early stages of development. It's called Defying Fate, but it's already drawing a large fan base of people talking about the game. And I think this is essentially what we're seeing in society right now, in the video game industry right now, where we're seeing a stark contrast from Eastern developers and how they view women, and Western developers and how they view women. You can see the difference right here in some of the pictures and just the comparisons of Western developers when they take charge and create female character models. You see a masculinization process, a deconstruction of the feminine structure of their faces, making things more gender neutral, because that is just a cultural philosophy in the West right now with the developers that are just more focused on making things more trans friendly, more LGBTQ friendly, and more body positivity to people that are heavier set or obese. And I think you see this happening with the game models that are being presented in the West right now, where we just have an uglification process to all female characters. This isn't done to the male characters, but more specifically the female characters. And I think this is the representation of that right here. And you see the opposite happen with Korean developers, and you can see that happening with Stellar Blade itself is the best representation of that, of taking something and making it, beautifying it to the point where you think it's unrealistic to have this sort of beauty. And I think that's the conversation people were having with Stellar Blade, saying it's too beautiful, it's too unrealistic, when this is a game set in a fantasy world where people are robots and androids mixed together. So it's not about being realistic, and I think that's the thing people are losing out on when they're focused on the aesthetics that are currently dominating the Western game development sphere, where they want realistic everything when it comes to the characters' looks, at least female looks. Males can be beautiful models in any way they want them to be, because they're supposed to be objectified now, because it seems like this is more of a cultural war point, because women were objectified, men need to be objectified now, and that's the psychology of the people that are working the Western games development sphere. It's not even about equality and de-objectifying everyone. It's about, we want revenge for objectification, so we're objectifying the men and we're gonna make the women look like men too. And that's kind of this crazy logic that we're seeing in the games development sphere in the West, and the opposite is happening in Korea and Japan. Korea and Japan, they're more focused on the beauty aesthetics that are catering to the people that actually want to play the games, and we get results like Eve from Stellar Blade, where people are excited about the character and interested in what is the future of this character. It's even becoming almost a icon for Sony at the moment, and I think probably an icon for Korea specifically that is little known in the video game development space, even though it has a long history. At least Americans don't know too much about Korean video game development. I think Eve is establishing a strong force in Korea as an iconic symbol of video game development in Korea, just in the way that Lara Croft shot off and became a superstar in England because she was an icon for that country, because it was a established property that produced the content for that game. And I think that's the situation that we're seeing with Eve and Stellar Blade, and we're seeing this dynamic spread and anger people in the West for some reason that have chosen to masculinize and de-beautify and uglify all the characters, where we have people angry that people love the look of these characters. Of course, Monster Hunter Wilds and this other game that is in pre-development stage that's getting a lot of anger from people, saying 20,000 likes from all white men who can only see women as sexual objects. They cannot fathom the existence of women for something else than their own perverted desires. Bears unironically have better respect of women than a bunch of absolute disgusting dogs. And the same bears would have better respect of women. No, bears would just eat you. And this goes back down to the logic that we're seeing within the video game industry. It goes back to that question that we saw go viral on the internet about bear or a man in the wild, which one you would trust. And of course, all the women said bears, because this is a subconscious hatred and misandry that we have for men in society today that is permeating through these joke-like questions. Of course, I think in a serious situation, all these women will drop that logic and choose a man instead of a bear. But that doesn't matter. It's about the statement that you want to make. And the statement you want to make is that all men are evil and that they can't be trusted. And you want that messaging to permeate to anyone else that's a part of your groupthink. And I think that's the situation with this viral question. And now we're seeing that kind of reaction seen with this picture right here, where people are using that as a statement, saying yes, everyone was right, bears are better than men. And that's the reaction that we're seeing foster itself in the social zeitgeist right now, where bears are better than men. And I think that's the situation that we're seeing play out in the video game industry, where we're seeing uglier female models are better than the beautified female models, because it's more realistic. And it's a degradation and a societal groupthink that people want to spread throughout the greater community, that this is the situation that we want. We want an uglified look being held on the same standard of a beautified look. And I think that is the philosophy that is being pushed. And you can see the response here, where people are saying, God forbid women have other things to do in life than be the prettiest possible according to man. Fantasy is low, even worse. God forbid a woman's existence isn't solely satisfying man desires. And this is the reaction that we're going to get with people that just want to play in a fantasy world. And this is something that even women that are playing these games want beautiful models to look at. No one wants to look at an uglified version of a person to be the standard, because a lot of people are playing games to escape the modern and real world. And I think that is not the place for the people that are responding to this picture right now. These people are probably not gamers. They're more of a political ideologist that wants to see gaming change in a way to reflect their personal values. They're not here to play a game with ugly characters. They just want to make sure all the characters are ugly. While in society itself, they champion all models or women to sell themselves online and do the opposite of what they're saying video game characters should do. They're saying video game characters should be restricted, modest, and covered up, while women in real life need to be selling themselves online to any man possible, because that makes them stronger and more independent. There's this double think that we're seeing right now that's in likening to 1984, where they're telling you one thing while they're protecting digital models of their modesty, and they want to expose real people and strip them of their modesty and respect. And it's just this abstract thinking that doesn't make sense in the real time of the world, but it makes sense in their mind because they feel like they have more control in the real world and they have a right to moral degradation, while the people playing video games don't earn that right. They are the enemy, simply. They want people to go to them to see anything appealing, and they want their appealing to be the version of attraction that people accept. And I think that is the essential thing that we're seeing nowadays in society, where people want to control other people's attraction and interests. And I think that's what's happening in gaming. And I think that's where you see this double think and hypocrisy grow, where they want women to sell themselves online in reality, but they don't want the virtual characters to be attractive and appealing, because it takes away the attention from the real world women selling themselves online. It's this kind of dark and sinister thinking that is controlling the video game industry right now, where people are insecure against video game characters doing the things they want to do in real life. It is the twisted sort of thinking that is running the video game industry today, and these character models are kind of a representation of people that are not trying to control other people and what they see. They're trying to give attractive beauty standards to the people that want to see the games. And I think that's the difference between Asian and Western game developers, where the Eastern game developers are not trying to control the people playing the games and what they're attracted to and their interests and what they want to see, while the Western game developers really want to control what you're attracted to because they want you to be stuck in the real world and want to be the one in control of what you see as beautiful and ugly. And I think that's the difference between the East and Asian games. East and Asian games are trying to give you what you want, while the Western games are trying to tell you what you need. And I think that is the big difference that I'm seeing. But you tell me what you think about the situation. I'd like to hear your thoughts. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.